Prisons don't need to rehabilitate, they need to punish. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines prison as a building where people are kept as punishment for a crime or while they're waiting to go to court, a state of confinement or captivity, a place or situation from which you cannot escape, a place of confinement especially for lawbreakers, specifically an institution for confinement of persons convicted of serious crimes. In this definition and many others, there lies no gray area. Prison exists for the sole purpose of punishing those who advertently break the law. America's prison system was formulated for punishment and retribution and not recreation and rehabilitation. According to the Bureau of Justice and Statistics, there has been a 3-year consecutive decline in the prison population. Prison punishment, as opposed to rehabilitation, is showing some promise. Prison is meant to punish. Teaching of moral values and right from wrong should be done in the home early on, and educating should be done in the schools. Parents need to take responsibility for their children's behavior, and adults need to accept responsibility for their own. There's no denying that prison entry can start a vicious cycle, but where's the correction really needed? At the beginning or at the end of the cycle? When should we intervene? Any coherent person is well aware when they commit a crime that there's a serious risk associated with it. More often than not, that risk entails prison. Upon a careful consideration of committing a crime or any compelling desire to do so, a person should consider seeking help then. If there be a person who does not appear to be coherent enough and a reason to believe that he's a danger of himself or others, someone should intervene and he should be placed under psychological care against his will if necessary. And if that person can't afford to pay for treatment, then through a government-funded program before it reaches a point of no return. Quite simply, don't do the crime if you can't do the time, and then go to prison and suddenly decide you need to talk. Prisoners already have too many accommodations. If prisoners are afforded any more luxury, why would they be deterred from going there? In all prisons, prisoners receive shelter, food, clothing, and medical attention when necessary. There are some people who live in poverty or homeless persons who aren't even always afforded these. Not only are their basic needs met, but they get to watch television, play games, talk on the phone. Some listen to music and engage in many other recreational activities. According to Forbes, some prisoners are even granted the request to be placed in prisons near their families. If prison isn't effective, perhaps we need to do a better job and adopt more strict standards which actually make prisoners feel as though they're being punished. Prison might need some reformation, but rehabilitation isn't the answer. The only real rehabilitation that prison needs is for prison to feel more like prison. Get these people out from in front of the television and make them get up and go to work every day. One of the earliest writings in reference to America's United States prisons by Harry Elmer Barnes conveyed that prison was intended to serve as punishment and to be spent doing hard labor and not idly. Why should prisoners be allowed to not work and still have their needs met? If you don't work, you don't eat. Currently, prison labor is only mandated in some states, and according to the National Institute of Justice, prison labor actually saves taxpayers dollars by offsetting the cost of incarceration. Make them pay their debts to society by giving back. Volunteers are needed in many arenas, and all prisons should adopt a policy that puts money back into the taxpayer's pocket by reduced cost labor from prisoners. Consideration should be lent to the fact that crime does exist in prisons, but federal guidelines should create a standard for both state and federal prisons alike. Perhaps they should or could adopt a zero-tolerance policy for prison staff who assists prisoners in committing illicit acts while behind bars, or prisoners need to be better controlled or regulated and perhaps placed in solitary confinement if they continuously commit criminal acts. Prison serves its purpose of separating lawbreakers from society and removing their personal liberties. Education, rehabilitation, and psychological help should be sought before criminal behavior is exhibited or at the onset of the threat of this type of behavior. Naturally, some exceptions would exist, but most deviant behavior becomes apparent well before a serious crime is committed. There should be programs or policies in place that are meant to intervene and teach people how to be productive members of society from the start. As commonly stated, we need to be proactive so that we don't have to be reactive. We can't reward criminals for their behavior. Prison is not a place for people to be catered to or pampered. These people committed a serious crime and deserve to be punished for their actions. Prisons do not rehabilitate, nor were they originally intended to. The effectiveness lies in the definition of the word alone, which is an institution of confinement for persons convicted of serious crimes. If we do not punish criminals, then what justice have we served the victims of their injustice?